Eagles. Eagles.
Good morning, everybody. A Monday edition of Birds 365 here after week one of the NFL. Just one game to go in week one. That's tonight, but the Eagles get their win on Friday night. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Monday morning, my friend?
Doing well. The first Overreaction Monday. It's my
baby.
favorite time of the year. A lot of people jumping off bridges around the country. A lot of people think their team is going to the Super Bowl. It's the best. There's always overreaction, but week one's the best.
I'll tell you one team, one fan base that doesn't think their team's going to the Super Bowl, and that's the New York Football Giants. They looked putrid yesterday. We're going to break down. We're going to talk a little bit about.
They outscored Saquon at least. They didn't outscore the Vikings defense, but they outscored Saquon.
Did they? I don't even think they did. I thought they had like 6 points on the board, didn't they?
Well, they had 6. I only count 3. 6-3. But yeah, right. Touchdowns, yeah.
Good stuff there. So we'll recap a little bit of week one. But Johnny Mac, as you said, it's an overreaction Monday. I want to thank everybody, by the way, for being here. Good morning, everybody. Eagles are 1-0. So let's get that like button rolling for the Philadelphia Eagles 1-0. More about the Saquon Barkley jersey giveaway a little bit later on in the program today. Johnny Mac, I want to give you a chance before we have 2 good guests today. We got Jeff Kerr coming up in about 15 minutes from now, and then we'll have Chris Franklin, post-game Chris, as we call him. So we'll have him at 9:20 in the second hour. So looking forward to talking to both of those guys. But Johnny Mac, I want to ask you, what's your number one positive to take away from the Philadelphia Eagles week one win over the Green Bay Packers?
Week one win. This is a potential playoff team in Green Bay. We'll see with the Jordan Love stuff. It could have been much worse, but
yeah, I thought that was
3
good
to 6
news.
weeks.
Not from an Eagles perspective, but I was happy to see it wasn't too bad of an injury for him.
Yeah, I think everybody should be, but I'm sure some people aren't. But I think that this is a very good team that's projected to be one of the better teams in the NFC, and that's one of my concerns about giving up the home game and going to Brazil was that. And I said it evaporates if they won the game, and they won the game. So that evaporates, and they have the tiebreaker over Green Bay moving forward. So that to me is the biggest positive. And then, the second part is they won a game against a good team and they didn't play their best. So I think that's always good from a coaching perspective, because you get out of there with a win and you still got plenty of stuff to correct and plenty of stuff to teach, and can be a little bit hard on the guys if you want to be, and we'll see. But I mean, you saw it around the league yesterday. If you're watching, if you took the time to watch some of the other teams, a lot of sloppy football, and that's just the nature of the modern NFL, because even the teams that do play some of their starters in the preseason, they don't play them a lot. So, it tends to be sloppy, and it was sloppy, and you add the field into it, and that was a big part of it as well, especially defensively when it came to the pass rush. I think everybody's concerned about the Eagles pass rush, but look, I'm going to give them a mulligan. Now, if Monday night, a week from tonight, it continues at Lincoln Financial Field, then I start to get a little bit concerned. But, that was a skating rink, especially for the guys up front trying to explode. And you saw how many times they slipped. So I put an asterisk next to that. Keep an eye on it. But I am going to give them a mulligan for that because of that field a little bit.
Fair enough. And as you point out, the number one positive, you travel 4,000 plus miles for a home game, Johnny Mac, and you come back 1-0. I think that's good news. I thought for me that a positive for me was Zach Bond on the defense. I mean, we thought that this linebacker core could be bottom in the league. They still might be, but Zach Bond, if he plays like that every week, they're not going to be the bottom linebacking core in the league. That was pretty impressive. 15 tackles, 2 sacks for Zach Bond. He was all over the field, so he's going to be my week one positive takeaway. Johnny Mac, now I want to go to the flip side. The week one negative. You come out of there with a win, but did you come out of there concerned with anything? What's your week one negative or your week one concern coming out of the win versus the Packers?
Well, there's plenty of stuff to nitpick about, starting with the turnover worthy throws of Jalen Hurts. That was not good. There were 4 or 5 of them, including back-to-back ones, and they were generally poor decisions, which is bigger. I don't care about the interceptions, and to a certain extent, until you peel back the onion and see what they were. Those interceptions were brutal. Late throws, the second one in the end zone, across his body over the. I mean, just cardinal sins of football. Just brutal decisions, and hopefully just playing, getting used to the speed of the game again. And we talk about veteran players, but still week 1, when you don't play in the preseason, you do have that little ramp up period, and almost weeks 1 and 2 serve as the new preseason. But the games count, unfortunately, for the teams. And hopefully that's just what it was. But yeah, obviously that can't continue. And then there are plenty of issues with the defense. The run defense was not good. Guys weren't getting off blocks, mainly, not mainly, but maybe possibly again because of the field. The tackling wasn't good. And that could be the sloppiness of, again, preseason. Essentially, it's a preseason game. So plenty of nitpicking you can do on the defense. But it was interesting if you boil it down to certain guys. You mentioned Zach Ball, and he got my game ball for the game. He was unbelievable.
Yeah, he was.
I didn't see that coming. Reed Blankenship was tremendous.
I think he was the highest graded player on the team, wasn't he?
Yeah, from PFF. Yeah, he was the
PFF,
highest grade player on the team. He was a tremendous throughout the game. And Darius Slay, they didn't even go after Slay. I mean, they were scared to death of him. And that harkens back to Aaron Rodgers' days. Aaron Rodgers was smart. He never went after Slay when he was in Detroit.
Right.
But he's 33 now, and you thought, and part of it is they wanted to test Quinyon Mitchell. And then Quinyon, a lot of positives there because they threw at him 10 times, and he gave up some plays. But overall, he held up very well, and I think people got to see the upside. So if you boil down to certain individual players, it wasn't that bad. But the front 7 was pretty bad as a whole, and hopefully that had a lot to do with the field. Hopefully.
Yeah, so for me, the negative for me would have been, as you pointed out, the turnovers. But they do have a silver lining to that, right? I mean, you have 3 turnovers. 2 of them come, or 2 of them come in your own red zone. I think it was the fumble was the fumble in our own red zone, or was on our own side of the field. But anyway,
well, the second interception was in the end zone going in to score. So that was
the other end. I'm talking about the first interception. They returned it back to the 18 or 19 yard line.
The first interception was a late throw down the middle of the field, very late throw.
And then the fumble came on our side of the field as well.
The theme of the turnover, and even the ones that, there would have been a pick 6 before the interception in the end zone that was essentially dropped. And then there was another potential interception that Jair Alexander should have probably corralled and did not. And the theme to all of those were late throws. Not making that decision, which has been a problem with Jalen Hurts. You got to trust what you see, deliver the football with competence, get it out on time. All 4 of them, the 2 interceptions and the 2 drops interceptions, were late throws, every single one of them. So that's the thematic point there, and that needs to improve, and it will improve. I mean, you're not going to see, and I saw some people said there were 5 turnover worthy throws. There might have been. I can't remember if there was a 5th, but there were definitely 4.
There were quite a bit. Yeah.
And that's not good enough. I mean, and that can't continue. But on the plus side, there's no way it will continue.
Yeah. The silver lining for me on the turnover thing is you turn the ball over 3 times. 2 of them come in your side of the field. and you still put up 34 points and only give up 29. So I thought the defense made two big stands, only getting when the Birds were down 6-0, they were lucky. They were lucky to be down 6-0 at that point. It could have easily been 14-0. So I thought that was a silver lining. The defense made two good stands, and you still put up 34 points with 3 turnovers. So from that perspective, it shows you how good this offense can be if they can kind of rein that in. Obviously, playmakers all over the field. Devontae was great. A.J. Brown was great. That was a fantastic route on his 67-yard touchdown. So great stuff there. We got 5 minutes, Johnny Mac, till Ed Kratz. Good recap there. We'll continue to break down.
We'll get
Jeff
Ed
Kerr.
later.
Sorry,
yeah.
I'm thinking Ed Kratz. I just read an article from him on SI.com this morning. But Jeff Kerr coming up in 5 minutes, and then Chris Franklin in hour number 2. John, just real quick, 5 minutes on what you saw yesterday. It was a kind of a relaxing Sunday for us, as normally we have game days on Sunday, so we kind of had a chance to consume the other teams in the NFL yesterday. An ugly week 1, as it usually is. Johnny Mac, what were your takeaways? Some of your takeaways from the NFL as a whole yesterday?
Well, the NFC East is the exact same. You got 2 good teams and 2 brutal teams.
Yep.
And the Dallas Cowboys, by the way, look tremendous. Now, part of that is the Browns were playing without both of their starting tackles for different reasons. And yeah, the Cowboys took advantage, to say the least.
Mike Parsons, he was destroying that defense or that D line.
The number of pressures in that game was just unbelievable. So from that standpoint, and I think, and I said, Jerry does his nonsense and he waits to the last minute and he extends
$60 million large for Dak, though.
Yeah, but I warned everybody. The history of Jerry Jones is he's going to pay his players. He just waits as long as possible to suck out every, keep his team in the headlines. And Eagles fans tend to forget they were a really good team when they got those guys out there. And all of a sudden, Dak Prescott's paid and out there. CeeDee Lamb's paid and out there. And how good was he, by the way? And Mike Parsons, as you mentioned, will get paid and is out there, arguably the best defensive player in football in week 1. They're really gifted. And, it's going to be tough for the Giants. Aren't surviving this. Joe Shane and Brian Table are not surviving this because people are just going to make the comparisons. And it's natural. And the Giants had to move on from Saquon Barkley. And I think a lot of people I always talk about the vacuum. It's not the same. For the Eagles, good fit. Super Bowl contender, extra piece. You saw the impact in week 1. For the Giants, building the foundation of an offense, they already did it for 6 years. It didn't work. They had to move on, but they're not going to be able to survive it. They're just not. It's a brutal team, a brutal organization. They got an owner who doesn't understand that, to be honest. If you saw on Hard Knocks, the situation that they're in, they're just not going to be able to survive it. And Washington is, they're going to suffer through the Jaden Daniels stuff. He's probably going to get hurt if there's any indication of him playing the way he played yesterday. So it's again the haves and the have-nots in the NFC East. And I guess that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. If it is, they're not paying attention. And then the rest of the league, you saw a lot of sloppy football, a lot of, I was watching Red Zone, so I got a feel for most of the early games. You had the Cardinals made a run at the Bills and collapsed. The Titans were beating the Bears and collapsed. So you have that sloppy football with, offenses making mistakes, handing them back. Houston and the Colts was an interesting game. And they'll probably be 2 competitive teams. Unfortunately, Shane Steichen couldn't get it done. Panthers are the worst team in football.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, the Saints put up a 47, and that's a bold statement because the Giants also played. But at least the Giants have some defensive players. Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeaux, Dexter Lawrence, tremendous player. They have some defensive players. Carolina, oof, that is a bad football team.
That's a bad football team, and I thought Bryce Young, he does not look good, man.
No, he's not. He doesn't have a lot of help, but yeah, he doesn't look good. The Broncos, amazing. They only lost by 6 points, I think. Bo Nix looked terrible as a rookie. All the rookie quarterbacks look terrible. Not going to be a CJ Stroud this year. And then overtime, Lions Rams. That was a good game. The Lions should have won that game easily. So maybe a little bit of concern for them. Rams were down to their third left tackle against Aiden Hutchinson, and they managed to tie the game and get it to overtime. And then just the Rams didn't have anything left in the tank. So Lions are projected to be another great team in the NFC, but there were some holes in that team that maybe should make Eagles fans a little bit happy.
Yep, no doubt. Definitely was a week 1 yesterday. So for everybody that watched, you saw a lot of sloppy football in there. I, for the life of me, can't figure out what the heck happened to Deshaun Watson. That is a different quarterback than the guy we saw previous to his suspension. So we'll see if he can turn it around. I got 2 super chats I'm going to get to. We got Jeff Kerr coming up next here on Birds 365. Alfredo checks in. Johnny Mack, he says, back to practice to work on defense and turnovers. Appreciate it, Alfredo. Thank you for checking in, man. I thought the defense was a little bit better than I honestly expected. They do have some stuff to work on, no doubt, that pass rush and then the turnovers for sure. Johnny Mack, what's your response to Alfredo?
Yeah, I mean, defense has got to get better. Turnovers got to get better. That's pretty.
I will say, John, we talked about the pass rush just real quick. It's one thing to talk about the slippery field, and I agree, right? Like you got to give him a little bit of a mulligan. The thing that concerned me was the snap counts with Bryce Huff. He had less snaps than Nolan Smith and Brandon Graham. It's one thing to not get to the quarterback because you were slipping and stuff like that. Nobody got there. Vic didn't even have you on the field. He didn't even trust you on the field more than Nolan and BG. I thought that was a little concerning for me.
Yeah, I mean, it was very close. So I'm not too concerned about it. I mean, that could be the part of the game. It could be you talk about the start of the game. It was all red zone stuff early for the Eagles because of the situation, and they played well. But maybe that affected the snap counts. You're playing situational football early, so I wouldn't make too much of that, especially because it was so close. I saw a lot of people got it. It's hey, worry about it if you want to. I think Huff played 30, Smith played 31, Graham played 32. I mean, yeah, we have to see if that continues. Yeah, that's a problem. If it's a 1 week thing because they were in the red zone too much or whatever, or certain packages,
right.
Or maybe Brandon was Brandon was the only one who played well. So maybe he was handling the turf better. And maybe that upped his numbers. If you look at those 3, I'm surprised how much Nolan played. But I wouldn't put too much stock into it just week 1.
Good stuff there from Johnny Mack. And appreciate it, Alfredo, for the super chat. Vulnerable Vitality. I like that name. Thank you for the super chat, man. We appreciate it. He says, I think Bond's 15 tackles ties a franchise record. I don't have the stat book. I'm not sure if that's true.
That's Jeff Kerr. That's what Jeff Kerr
said. Yeah,
said.
so we'll have Jeff Kerr. Yeah.
I find that hard to believe, but I don't know.
That doesn't seem like that.
It's like the worst stat in the world, so I don't care. But Jeff will probably know, so we'll ask Jeff.
We'll bring that up with Jeff Kerr. Coming up next here, Vulnerable Vitality. Thank you for the super chat, man. We appreciate it. A little update on our Saquon Barkley jersey giveaway. He did it, everybody. Week 1, we are giving away a jersey. So I'm not doing it today. We're going to do it tomorrow. I want to hear from you guys in the chat at a good time. I was going to do a custom show to give away the jersey. Today is the last day to enter or to become a member to be entered into the Week 1 giveaway. So if you're not a member by day's end, you will not be entered into the Week 1 giveaway. I'll do a show tomorrow. I'm going to put everybody who's a member into a random generator. and we're going to pick it and we're going to give it away. And then you'll have to confirm with me that it's your account. And then I'm going to ship it directly to you. So I'm going to buy it from the NFL website, the shop, and ship it right to you. So that's what we will do. Saquon says, do it on 365. Maybe I'll do a little after hours on 365. I'll do it from 10 to 10:15. Let Johnny Mac get out of here. So then maybe I'll do that tomorrow. But anyway, that's when we're going to do it. So if you do want to become a member, do it today. And then we will give that jersey away tomorrow on Birds 365 at the end. Good idea, Saquon. I think that is a little bit of a better idea. So good stuff there. Before we get to our commercial break, Jeff Kerr coming up next. I want to tell you a little bit about BetUS. Are you guys looking for a new sports book this football season? I have the answer for you. And we have an update on the promotion from BetUS. They have now upped it for all of our YouTube people on JAKIB Sports from $125 to 150% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. So make sure you go to betus.com.pa. They are the answer, everybody. If it's good for former Birds quarterback Michael Vick, it's definitely good for JAKIB Sports. BetUS has the fastest payouts in the industry. They have 24/7 personalized customer service, and they have live wagering on all major games, and you can even get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. So go to betus.com.pa and use the code YouTube150. You can see it on our scroll there at the bottom of the screen, YouTube150, and you'll get 150% sign-up bonus. So go to betus.com.pa. Birds 365 will be back in 3 minutes with Jeff Kerr on the other side.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid. Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services. The first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365. Big shout out to our newest member, John Love. John, appreciate you becoming a member. My man, joined now on Birds 365 by Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports. Jeff, welcome to the show, man. Week 1 is almost in the books. We got one game left on week 1. How you doing on this Overreaction Monday, Jeff Kerr?
I do overreactions on Sunday, so I've been hearing it from people across the board. People just don't want to hear the truth. That's the reality, and John knows that.
Yeah, that is the reality. But first off, was that a record for the Eagles? Zach Bond's 15 tackles.
It is. So
There's
there's only been 6 players, and remember the tackle stat started in 1987. There's only been 6 players that have had 15 tackles and 2 sacks of a game, and one of them is actually on the Eagles and didn't play Friday night.
One of them.
Why does that seem so low for me for a franchise record? I mean, it's a great number, but it
I
does seem low.
guarantee you, as Jeff pointed out, now some people, Pro Football Reference, the Pro Football Historicals, they go back and grade and the tape and tally up old stats. Like when did sacks start, Jeff?
Sacks, well, the official sack started in 1982, but Pro Football Reference found
Pro Football. Yeah,
data
they
back
go
to
back to Deacon Jones, and when they're really. I guarantee you, back in the early 80s, 70s, somebody had more than 15 tackles. That's why I kind of said. But good. I mean, Zach got my game ball. Zach played tremendous. It's not a shot at Zach Bond, but the accumulation of tackles is not the best stat. He just played well overall, which manifested itself into a lot of tackles on this particular game. And he was one of the biggest surprises. Who got your game ball? If you had to give out just one, who got your game ball?
Man, it's hard to go against Zach Bond, right? I mean, I don't think anybody expected a performance like that. I mean,
I thought Penn State Jeff would be going with Penn State Saquon Barkley.
I already am taking my pats on the back and my flowers for him, especially after watching that atrocious performance by the Giants yesterday. So I'll go with Zach Bond. I mean, I did not expect that at all.
Was that one? That's one of my overreactions. The New York Giants brass, so I'm talking about Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, will not survive this, partially because of what's going to happen with Saquon here. And people can't wrap around, and he's not a good fit for the Giants, but he's a good fit for the Eagles. But even their owner can't figure that out. So they will not survive this. That's my overreaction.
So I look at it a different way from you, John, and I agree with everything you said, but the fact that I think they chose to pay the guy that currently is their quarterback, and they tried to improve their offensive line again. It's still really bad. They tried 2 tight end sets yesterday. That was a disaster. Jalen Hyatt, who they hype up like no tomorrow, barely played. I mean, he was pretty much their Bryce Huff this week. What a disastrous franchise the New York Giants are.
Yeah. Malik Neighbors did a little bit.
Malik Neighbors is good. It's just, and by the way, I didn't think their defense actually played.
They got some players on defense.
Yeah, they do. But their quarterback stinks and their offensive line stinks. And the Giants with that and the Cowboys with the stuff they do is why I could never take those 2 franchises seriously.
Well, you better take the Cowboys.
Oh, I take the Cowboys seriously, but I'm judging them in January because they've earned that right.
Oh, yeah. But I mean that by that statement alone, judging them in January, they're going to be there. I'm with you. Same thing with Baltimore and Lamar. All right, if you want to rip him for his postseason performance, feel free. But they're good.
Yep.
And all of Lightning's just got to strike once, and the Cowboys are going to be there again because as Zander's talking about. Your PSU as a PSU grad, you should be hyping up Michael Parsons.
Michael Parsons was dominant yesterday. 8 pressures. Sorry, no. Was it 8 quarterback? I forget the exact stat. I gotta look it up, but he was all over the
whole pass rush.
They couldn't block him for anything.
Yeah.
So I had the 405 game yesterday, which you could only get if you were on ticket. I had Harbaugh's debut. So I was really, really happy to see J.K. Dobbins just tear it up yesterday for that team.
Yeah, he had a good game, J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, it was a year ago. Saturday is when he ruptured his Achilles on like the 4th play of the game. He kind of did Aaron Rodgers.
4th play of the game. Yeah, that's tough. The New York Jets, by the way, get started tonight against the San Francisco 49ers.
That'll be a good game too.
Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting game. I'm looking for the Micah numbers. Let's see what they gave him credit for. Only had 1 sack. They had him at 5 quarterback pressures. So, but quarterback hits. What are the Q? I think it's quarterback hits.
Yeah. Q's quarterback hit. So which 5 is still a lot, by the way. It's a lot for a football game. John, how bad was Deshaun Watson yesterday?
17 quarterback hits. But that's the one thing. Cleveland was absent both of their tackles, Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin. So typically Cleveland has one of the best offensive lines in football. But when you lose both your tackles against the Cowboys, yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
That said, Deshaun Watson stinks on top of it.
My upset pick Wednesday was Browns over the Cowboys. And I asked CBS on Friday, I'm like, can I please change that? And they said, why do you want to change it? I'm like, Browns are out both their tackles. I don't actually think that's going to happen now.
Yeah, that was bad. But back to the Eagles, Birds 365. People are going to get difficult. So we'll keep the overreactions to the Eagles. All right. There was some stuff that wasn't good. And where would you start if you're talking about the stuff that wasn't good?
Oh, man. So, I mean, obviously, Jalen's giveaways, we can harp on that all day. They were pretty bad. I thought Jalen played fine, honestly, if even with all that. But I wasn't crazy about the giveaways. The third A.J. Brown was late. I thought that could have – the picky out of the end zone, I thought A.J. Brown was open earlier, and I don't know if he didn't see him or –
All four turnover-worthy throws were late. That was the theme. Every single one of them was late. And that's egregious, throwing it across your body to the middle of the field in the end zone. That was an egregious throw. And yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to point out. But here's what I love about Jalen Hurts. Like most people have a game like that, and they're throwing the ball and they're struggling. They're gonna fall apart. And all of a sudden, he's relentless. You got to play. I said, Vic Fangio called the Green Bay offense an all-day sucker. I said, Jalen Hurts you got to play for 60 minutes. Because even if you got him and he's having a poor game and he was having a poor game, he's making plays at the end of the game to win the game. That is, I think, the positive with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, that's why he has as many wins as he does as a starting quarterback. And look, you can debate all day if wins are a quarterback stat or not, but there are reasons why you can say it is. And because of, like you said, the relentlessness of Jalen Hurts. Like if most quarterbacks play like he played Friday night in the turnover department, they're done. Not him. It's, he just steps in the pocket later in the game, throws a dime to A.J. Brown, throws that perfect pass to Saquon Barkley on the wheel route. That's why I said I thought Jalen played fine. But if you take away the giveaway, he played phenomenal. It's just the giveaways brought it down.
Jeff, what'd you make of Saquon Barkley's debut? 3 touchdowns, 132 yards from scrimmage, a touchdown pass in the end zone. I thought Saquon, he didn't disappoint in his opener with the Eagles. What'd you think of Saquon Barkley's debut in Philly?
The day they signed him, I kind of envisioned that. Him running behind that offensive line. I mean, look, he's not the explosive Saquon that we saw at Penn State or his first year or two with the Giants, but he's still a really good running back. And like John said earlier, he's a perfect fit for what the Eagles want to do. And I love how they utilized him in the passing game. They gave him plenty of runs in his strength in the B gap, and it worked. The 34-yard run he had, what was it, John? At the end of the third quarter, the one where
last play of the third quarter.
Yeah, that looked like he was going to get 1 yard, and he ended up getting 34 because of his cutback. I mean, it just opens so much up. It really, you know what? And I joked about it early in the second half before he scored the third touchdown. I'm like, this kind of feels like T.O.'s first game where he scores 3 touchdowns. And remember, T.O. didn't have like a Saquon Barkley stat line that first game. I think it was only 8 catches for 61 yards, but he had 3 touchdowns. But Saquon runs for 100, 3 touchdowns, is one of the league's rushing leaders. I think of the running backs, only Dobbins and Mixon have more yards than him.
Yeah, 26 touches, which surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, ton.
That's not sustainable, is it?
No, John, didn't it feel like he got that many touches because they don't play till next Monday night, and because this was a Friday game, a rare Friday game in week 1. It's kind of odd to go on schedule. I kept joking to some of the players, it's kind of like a bowl game, right? And that's how some of them kind of looked at it.
Yeah, well, I think they were trying to close the game. So if you think about the last drive where they closed the game and they basically siphoned whatever. There was 7:52 left, and they siphoned like 7:26 of it off the clock or whatever it was. The first 3 plays were Barkley running the football. And that kind of spikes it up. And he had 3 more runs in that. I'm counting them up. Oh my. So
yeah, he had 8 runs on that last cat.
Yeah,
on that last
8
drive,
runs, 8 runs on that last. So right there, that explains it.
Right.
You go from 18 to 26.
Yeah, that was, and I agree with you. That's Nick saying, hey, look, we're going to chew time off the clock. They can't stop, and we're going to put this thing away.
Yeah. Well, but the interesting part is most of them weren't that successful. You had -2, you had 9, which is solid. You had 2, -3, 2, 2, 3. So only 1 was successful. And that's where Jalen Hurts comes into it. You had that you had that scramble where he's basically carrying people. And then Devontae Smith, to me, was the star. To me, the final drive was about Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith. And Devontae Smith dragging people for a first down at his size. That is something else.
It's funny. You and I get to see it, John. I wish kind of the fans would get to see it, but I think they kind of know. For a guy who, with his frame, he's jacked. Like he's just built.
Oh yeah. He's very powerful for size.
Yeah.
Because he's a good blocker. Sometimes he gets overpowered, but for his size, it's amazing how much power he packs into it. And yeah, he was, and I thought the fact that Kellen Moore trusted Jalen Hurts to make big throws, despite what went on in the game, I think that's a positive, and that's gonna cement that relationship. And yeah, the passes to Devontae Smith at 16 yards on 2nd and 13. Think about that.
That was one of the plays of the game.
Yeah. You're sitting there 2nd and 13, Green Bay's like, all right, we're going to stop and we're going to have a chance. And they get 16 yards on 2nd and 13 to Devontae. And then 2nd and 8, when you're trying to hold them to a field goal, he gets 11 yards. That won the game, those 2 plays.
Yeah. And by the way, when they had second, I would love to ask Saquon this week, because I noticed on that last drive, the Packers put 8 in the box. So they were clearly trying to stop Saquon, daring Jalen to throw and beat them, and it didn't work.
Yeah, it's a give and take, and it's going to be interesting. But they got out of there. Zander asked, "What's the most impressive part? Win the game. Found a way to win the game."
And you know what? This was probably a game that if you would have asked us last Monday at this time, I would have told you they were probably going to lose the game, but they didn't, and now they really can get jump started on this season.
Jeff, how much stock you put in those turnovers from Jalen Hurts, namely the interceptions? It's one thing to have 2 interceptions. It's another thing to make 2 putrid decisions with the football. Are you chalking it up to week 1 rust, or are you a little bit more concerned about that than others coming into week 2 here?
You didn't have 20 of these last year. in 17 games, I would have said, yeah, I would have chalked it up. You know what, Xander, I'll give you one. I chalked it up last year. I kind of let it blow by when they beat the Patriots in week 1. Like, okay, well, Jalen doesn't do that. Well, now Jalen does do that. So to me, the issue is, can he stop doing that? I think he can, but I got to go by the numbers in front of me. And the guy has the most giveaways in the league since the start of last year. And like John said, the throws are late. That's a concern.
Yeah, I'm trying to go back, and that was during his starting career, by far his worst grade from PFF, by far. And I can't recall that many turnover-worthy throws. I would say,
The Giants game.
I would constantly say in the offseason, his history is he doesn't turn the ball over. He's very ball security conscious. That was very uncharacteristic of Jalen.
I had a fan point this out to me. I'm glad he did. Because when I said this is the first time the Eagles have won when Jalen's turned the ball over 3 times or more, and he said, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong here. Doesn't the only time he turns the ball over 3 times or more in MetLife? And I looked it up. It was. So that was the first time. It's, somewhere other than MetLife, he did that.
MetLife and Sao Paulo now have that in common with the multiple turnovers from Jalen Hurts. Hopefully he can clean this up. I want to go to the super chat here because it's about exactly what we're talking about from our man, James Carver. James, thanks for the super chat, James Carver. $20, man. We appreciate your support. He says Jalen's first imp really was, in my opinion, more so the field than anything. It was later, but not really late. But his back foot slipped in the end zone, and when he threw, Smitty was bracketed, but the linebacker was turned, and the seam was open, except the ball sailed. I don't really know if I agree with Carver there. Johnny Mack, I'll go to you first, and then Jeff, what's your take on what James had to say about that?
You're making excuses. I love you, James. Every single one of those turnover-worthy throws were extremely late for an NFL quarterback, and bad things are going to happen when you throw the ball late in the NFL. And bad things did happen. Alexander dropped one. I forget who dropped the pick 6 before the interception in the end zone. You might remember, Jeff.
Was it Stokes?
Might have been, but that should have went for 6 the other way.
Oh, no, you know what? It was Nixon. Nixon dropped it.
Yeah, God, Nixon's going to go. Nobody's catching him. His entire starting career, even games he's played poorly, every game's the Tampa Bay playoff games, the Giants games people are mentioning. Nowhere can you find that many turnover-worthy throws from Jalen Hurts. It was not a good performance. But, like I said, if you want the positive, the guy's freaking relentless. He's got a mentality like a star cornerback. He doesn't let that stuff bother him. And he's still down the stretch of the game making big throws to win it.
Yeah.
Most quarterbacks fall apart when they're playing like that.
Kind of did fall apart after his turnover. Jordan Love.
Yeah, most quarterbacks do. So if you want a positive, I would go in that direction with Jalen. It was arguably his worst performance ever.
And they won.
And they won the game. He found a way to win the game. But he didn't play well. If you have a problem with people saying that, come on. You're just not being honest with yourself.
You have to be concerned. 23 giveaways in 18 games.
Well, from the standpoint of, I'm not concerned about him doing, I don't think it's possible. He's not going to turn into a bad quarterback overnight.
No, he's not a bad quarterback. That's the funny thing of it.
So I'm not too concerned about it. But it was for one game. Yeah, it was pretty bad. And they won the game. So.
Yeah, what does that tell you? It tells you that
there's a lot of talent.
yeah, there's a lot of talent, and they got guys that can bail him out. And Saquon and Devonta did that on Friday.
Yeah, 3 turnovers, Jeff, and they still put 34 points on the board. So obviously, the talent is there. If they can clean some of those things up, the offense showed how good, they can be if they can mitigate some of those mistakes that they had. Jeff, I want to go to the defensive line and ask you about Bryce Huff. He played less snaps than Nolan Smith and Brandon Graham. Didn't make much of an impact in the game, really made no impact in the game. Too early to sound the alarm on Bryce Huff.
No. John and I watched Bryce Huff enough in training camp to know that we're probably not even surprised by this performance.
I'm a little bit. Yeah, I'm not as down on Bryce Huff as other people. I've taken the other, like I never saw Hassan Reddick do anything in Eagles practice. And I think a lot of that has to do with Lane Johnson. So from my standpoint, I was like, well, let's wait and see. Now, week 1 was not good.
Are we chalking that up to the field, though?
I kind of am.
I defended them on that. I defended a lot of guys on that, so I got to stay consistent.
I'm giving them a mulligan, but I got my eye on it. If the same thing happens against Atlanta a week from tonight, then you start to worry. But I am giving the entire, because the front 7 was brutal overall, except for early in the game. The two drives early, Green Bay lost the game by not being able to punch the football into the end zone, probably. And they did a good job. And a lot of that comes with Bick as well. A real increase in feel for the game and situational football from Vic Fangio. But I do think everybody struggled but Brandon, really. And I think a lot of it had to do with the turf. So,
I mean, Jalen Carter only had 2 pressures, and I thought he had a decent game. But yeah, that's why I kept chalking up to the field. I'm like, well, I can't really get on Jordan Davis much. I can't get on Nolan Smith much. Even Bryce Huff. But I was upset at how Bryce Huff performed. But I think it's more of me being upset that they didn't keep us on rec, and I know why. But it's just one of those. I feel like we're trying to be smarter than what we actually are with this game.
I mean, are Zach Bond and Reed Blankenship the only ones who can figure out the footwear? It is kind of
it's weird.
It is kind of weird because those two played tremendously.
John, how did you think that Kobe Dean looked? It was hard for me to get an actual.
Didn't play well.
Yeah, he didn't play well. He didn't play well either, did he?
Oh no, God, he was in the 20s. Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up. Who the worst graded Eagles were?
It couldn't have been Dean. I mean, he wasn't good, but he couldn't have been him.
No, he was near the bottom. He was the worst defensive grade. He barely Jalen Carter beat him barely.
Was it CJ?
No, Nakobe was the worst.
Okay.
And Jalen Carter, the bottom 5 were Booker, Huff, Maddox.
Booker played like 6 snaps, didn't he?
Yeah, small sample size, but yeah, we'll throw him out because he didn't play. So the bottom 5 are Nolan, Bryce Huff, Avante. Avante had a tough game.
Yeah, he did.
Jalen Carter, Nakobe Dean. Those are your bottom 5. Your top 5 on defense were Reed Blankenship, number 1, Brandon, number 2, Zach, number 3, Slay, number 4, Milton Williams, number 5.
Slay was only targeted once the entire game.
Yeah, they were scared to death of Slay.
Yeah.
By the way, offensively, Lane, number 1, Devontae, number 2, AJ, number 3, Jordan Mailata, number 4, Landon Dickerson, number 5.
Offensive line had a good night.
Yeah. Well, they got helped by the Terp, I think.
Yeah, they did.
Bottom 5, you're not going to like. We'll throw Johnny Wilson out because he barely played. So we're only the guys. This is going to fire people up to no end. Bottom 5, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, Jahan Dotson, Grant Calcaterra, and bottom of the list, Jalen Hurts.
I always say, they're a good barometer but I always say sometimes take them with a grain of salt because I'm curious how that Saquon Barkley grade comes out.
Well, the idea is, right, he touched it 26 times, so it just went over. So 34-yard run, 18-yard pass. The other 22 touches were ineffective touches. So it's about consistency.
But that's kind of cool for a running back because, again, just watching, I'll go to the Chargers game yesterday. You take away a 12-yard run and a 61-yard run by J.K. Dobbins. Couldn't you say the same thing?
Well, we'll see how it shakes out with JK. That they're not. But what I'm trying to say, no, you're and I think people don't understand the grading. The grading's about consistency. It's not about. And I'm the first to tell you they don't value splash plays as much as they should. But as long as you know what it is, it's very valuable. It's about grading from play to play. And yeah, I always use the baseball analogy since Jeff's a baseball guy. Like the prior Phillies, I don't want to call it dynasty, but when the Phillies were very good, you had Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins. Well, if you did all around baseball players, Chase Utley and Jimmy Rollins are always going to be ahead of Ryan Howard. But who was the most impactful player on that team?
Ryan Howard.
Ryan Howard by far. So, Saquon's like Ryan Howard going 0 for 3, maybe 2 strikeouts, 3 strikeouts even, and then bang, the 3-run home run changes the whole complexion of the game. That's my comparison.
Yeah, and I always felt like PFF never really graded running backs great anyway. Just because of what you said.
Here's the thing. When somebody complains about a good grade, I'll take them more seriously. Because everybody loves the good grades.
Yep.
And they're always 100%, and they don't like the bad grades.
My takeaway from this game was, and I wrote a column about it Saturday about Barkley's impact. Last year, the Eagles were dead last in yards after contact when the running back actually touched the defender or when got into contact with a defender, they pretty much went down. It was 2.3. Saquon was 3.8 on Friday. That led the league. So complete opposite.
Yeah, but Jeff, how many of that was the 34-yard run, skewing it? So it works both ways.
But averages are averages, right?
Yeah,
I'm a bowler. That's why I say
small sample sizes are small sample sizes. So as you get larger, things will start to even out. But yeah, when people said game ball for me, like I think the average person's going to go Saquon in that game. I went immediately to Zach Bond. To me, and the film kind of matched what we all saw.
You could even say Devonta Smith with the game ball.
Yeah, Devonta would have been ahead. Offensive linemen are always difficult, but the offensive line as a whole played great in my estimation. Part of that, but they probably got helped by the field. Part of that is.
And again, yeah, you're right because I thought Mekhi Becton had a good game.
He had a very good game.
Yeah,
he had a very good
right guard. Yeah, I mean,
I was concerned about that matchup, but that's part of the reason why I'm giving the Eagles front a mulligan because I'm like Kenny Clark didn't play well.
No,
Green Bay only had one guy that played well, which was Rashawn Gary.
Yeah. Who doesn't put his hand in the dirt.
Yeah, and he's a good player, Rashawn Gary. But
Lucas Van Ness was slipping all over the place.
Everybody was slipping. The NFL should be ashamed of itself.
It's really dumb.
This is a joke, and it's going to happen next year. They're going to go back. I don't know if it's going to be actually next year. I was told they're going back to Brazil, which is
wouldn't surprise me. Guys, I want to ask you both about the Blitz. It's one of the things we talked about the most this offseason. John, in our preview to the game, it was your number one thing to watch. The Blitz numbers came out for Jalen Hurts against the Blitz. He was 6-7 for 91 yards, a passing touchdown, a perfect passer rating. Jeff, I'll go to you first. Did Jalen Hurts answer the questions on if he will be able to handle the Blitz this year?
Oh yeah, because he didn't have a stat line like that in any of his games last year. I thought he was great against the blitz. He anticipated. He was doing his checks. He knew where to go with the football right away. And his incomplete pass, I think, was just one. He didn't even. He just had no time to get rid of it. It was just okay. I'm just gonna get rid of it. He took a sack, I think, on the because he didn't throw one pass. I think he took a sack, but besides that, look, he was on the money. He knew where to go. He threw a touchdown because off a set blitz. It's perfect passer rating. What can you complain about?
Well, I'm not going to say he's solved the problems. I mean, one of the things I was surprised, and I don't think Hapley had a great NFL debut.
No,
Like,
he didn't.
I don't think he tested him, which was a surprise to me.
I don't think Hatley's a good defensive coordinator either.
I mean, I don't know if he's going to end up, but it is talking to Lane during the week. I mean, he was expecting a boatload of pressure, and he didn't really see it. And maybe it was because of the field. Maybe that affected his game plan. But I don't think he was tested yet. So until he gets tested, now in the short time he did a really good job with it. That was one of the positives. But that was mitigated by the stuff he usually does a better job with, and the fact that when he held the ball late, he was making poor throws instead of just living to play another down, whether it's running the football or whether it's just throwing it away. But yeah, in that small sample size, he handled it very well. I just don't think he was. I was surprised how little Green Bay brought extra pressure, to be honest.
Or maybe they did and they couldn't.
Yeah, maybe they couldn't.
That's true. Maybe the field factored in, but I thought it was good to see that Jalen handled what he was given pretty well. So if, there was negatives with Jalen with the turnovers and stuff, but I do think that was a positive. So we'll continue to watch that going into week 2 here. But Jeff, final thoughts, man. We appreciate you being here on this football overreaction Monday edition of Birds 365. Final thoughts on the Eagles' week 1 win versus the Green Bay Packers.
Big win. Much more impactful than, say, the Saints demolishing the Carolina Panthers, which by the way,
that's the worst team.
Which by the way,
Mike K, by the way.
Yeah. By the way, the Saints fan base, they're so delusional. So delusional.
You're not a big Dennis Allen guy.
I can't stand him.
Like
I think he's a terrible head coach.
We got that team in 2 weeks, and they're on
They look pretty good. Now that it's tough to say because the Panthers are just an abject disaster.
Yeah.
And by the way, I predicted that when I picked up 5 people on waivers, or was it 6?
Yeah, they picked up a lot.
Yeah. Well, what was it, John? They picked up like 3 corners.
Yeah, I mean that tells you how bad a roster is. If you're picking up that many people off waivers, and you don't want to work with any of the people you've worked with throughout the spring and summer, they're a freaking disaster.
There were the NFC South was very interesting on Sunday, by the way. If you want some final thoughts here, Zan. So the Bucs did what I thought they were going to do: dismantle Washington. Washington's defense is garbage, by the way. The Falcons, oh God, I really hope.
Oh, they look brutal.
Yeah, I really hope the Eagles pass rush could turn it around against it, because I know it's T.J. Watt, but Caleb McGarry looked horrible against him.
He's a good player too. TJ.
Yeah, he is a good
Hall
player.
of Fame player though.
Yeah, but the way Caleb McGarry played Sunday, and again, like I said, I know it's T.J. Watt, but Bryce Huff should be able to feast on him.
Yeah,
and like you said, Caleb McGarry's a really good player. He's a really good player, but
I mean, T.J. Watt's like historically good.
Can we get to the Kirk Cousins looked like a 36-year-old quarterback?
Yeah, not good, man.
Yeah.
Not good. Not good.
Like,
That's positive for the Eagles.
I'm telling you, John. I've talked to enough people. Matt Ryan is one of them. Michael Penix strain. He said it's going to happen this year.
It's not going to happen. You know why it's not going to happen? Because they paid Kirk Cousins.
Well, that's what. Again, that was the second point. He goes, they should play Penix this year. Are they going?
They should. Yeah.
Like they all these guys love Penix. Love them.
They might be hoping for the Kirk Cousins injury. No, you should never hope for that. But yeah, he did not look good. But again, it's week 1. It's overreaction. He did have to knock off some rust.
Well, you know what? I blame the Falcons for that too. He did not play a snap in the preseason, and he wanted to.
Yeah, and so we'll see. You're going to see the corrections, and everybody looks like a world beater. And sorry, Eagles fans, you don't have TJ Watt, so that's going to impact things. Boy, I'll tell you what though, Pittsburgh, they're probably going to find a way to win 9 games because they're who they are. And they have TJ Watt, and they can do some things defensively. They got some issues at quarterback.
By the way, John, our boy Peyton Wilson had a huge tackle in that game.
Did he?
To save him. So the Falcons did I can't remember if it was a screen pass or a quick pass in the flat, but it went to Bijan. And all of a sudden, I saw Bijan get tripped. I'm like, was that Peyton? It was Peyton Wilson. He would have scored a touchdown if it wasn't because of that.
Did he start, Peyton Wilson?
I don't know if he started. But he definitely, I got to look at the game book because there were a couple of plays I saw Peyton Wilson make.
Yeah, can't, but I mean, on the Zach Bond week, you can't complain about Zach Bond yet.
No. Zach Bond, it's fun. You want to know a reaction or a hot take? The best signing there all season was Zach Bond.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of, Zach Bond's really good friends with Andrew Van Ginkel. It's so weird because I think the Eagles.
I think yesterday, Van Ginkel.
That's what I was about to say. Did you see that pick 6?
Oh my God, that was. I mean, Daniel Jones never saw Van Ginkel. So here's a funny story, John, and you probably know this too. Andrew Van Ginkel wanted to sign with the Eagles. That was a thing, but I don't know what happened where it was miscommunication with his agent or. Nothing just got done, but it's like, okay, well, the Vikings offered and this team didn't give me the offer I wanted.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. He's from that area and he grew up. This is like a TJ Edwards situation. He grew up a Vikings fan, evidently, because I was hyper focused on Van Ginkel to the Eagles. So I was on that, because I thought Vic would say, all right, this is a guy I want.
And he loved him in Miami.
Yeah. So I don't know if that was the case. But I was surprised how little interest I heard from the Eagles. And I thought it was more because he hurt his Lisfranc. He had a Lisfranc.
Yeah, Lisfranc.
I thought it had more to do with the injury, although he didn't look like he had a Lisfranc injury yesterday.
But give the Eagles credit because remember they jumped on Zach Bond very early in the process.
And that's why I don't think that was the case with Van Ginkel. I think he decided to sign with Minnesota because of he's from the
I talked to a couple Saints writers after they got Bond because I've heard of Bond obviously, and I'm like, what was he like in New Orleans? And 2 people basically said you're gonna love him there. He can play anywhere.
Great dude. But it's interesting because they were teammates at Wisconsin.
Yeah, they were.
And they both have a similar. Now I don't know if Zach Bond's going to turn into Van Ginkel long term, but he was one of the best defensive players in the NFL last season before he got hurt. And
he was going to be an All-Pro before he got hurt. That's how good he was last year. And the Dolphins defense suffered after he got hurt.
And I think the positive is that you saw that Vic's going to use Zach Bond like he used Van Ginkel, which I think is a positive. So that was a big positive of week 1.
By the way, John, did we ever talk about the Devin White thing?
I don't know if we did, but hey, Jakobi didn't play well, so maybe Devin's back in the mix.
You know what? It's so weird to me because White played so much in training camp, and I don't think he played bad in training camp either. Like, I'd like to know what happened over the last 2-3 weeks.
Well, Jakobi took off like a rocket.
Well, yeah, but I still say, and nothing against Jakobi because I really do like Jakobi and I hope he does well. But for some reason, maybe it's just me. I feel like their best linebackers are Devin White and Zach Bond. Even though I knew Jakobi was going to start. I still think
Jakobi's their best linebacker. It was a little bit disappointing. I think the whole narrative changes if he makes the interception, which he should have.
Yeah, he had that big hit though.
And he
That was a
had the
good
big
play.
hit, which people like. I think N'Kobe's going to be fine long term, but he didn't play well. In Brazil.
Again,
You gotta be
field.
honest.
We got to go with the field. Field. Let's see. How
I don't
he
know
does.
if it was the field. I just
Yeah.
don't think he played well. Missed a bunch of tackles. Yeah, tackling was an issue, but maybe that's just lack of work in the preseason.
Yeah. Speaking of, by the way, I know since you brought up the preseason, John, we were talking about Kirk Cousins and him not playing the preseason. You know who should have played pretty much every snap in the preseason and didn't? Bryce Young.
Yeah, but I get it from I think a lot of people don't understand. It's not a like the teams realize the guys are going to be sloppy early in the season.
Well, they treat September like it is the preseason.
Yeah, the whole philosophy behind it is to get to week 1 as healthy as possible because you say, well, you're not going to be able to prepare like you want anyway. So that's why nobody plays in the preseason or very few snaps in the It's not about they know it would help them. It's about A, they don't want to get them hurt. And B, why you risk getting them hurt if you don't have time to prepare like you want anyway?
Oh, John, also 2 former Eagle running backs did not have good days yesterday.
Miles?
No.
Miles did not have
And
good
Swift, yeah.
Swift had a 6-yard run. Then I'm watching the game and I look, I'm like, he's still at 6 yards. It was the third quarter. Then he has a 12-yard run. Then he loses, I think, 4 or 5. Like, the Bears' offensive line isn't good, but man.
Yeah. Well, Caleb Williams, they didn't score an offensive touchdown. I don't think. Did they?
No, they won the game and they didn't.
Yeah,
I think they had 2 defensive touchdowns.
Yeah.
So,
well, no,
Zander,
they had a special teams touchdown.
Right, special teams. That's what it was.
Zander, here's a good stat for you. The Bears are the first team to be down 17 in the second half of the game and come back without scoring an offensive touchdown since the Bears in 06. That was the Cardinals game.
Yeah, so the Bears had 3 field goals. Stat right there. Jonathan Owens getting a gold medal return of a block punt, and his wife was very excited, Simone Biles.
Jonathan Owens does pretty well for himself, I must say.
Yeah, and then Stevenson had a 43-yard pick six. So, yeah, they didn't score offensively all day. Caleb Williams was atrocious for people thinking he'd hit the ground. He finished with 93 yards passing. 14 of 29. Yeah, Swift 10 for 30.
There's no CJ Stroud in this class.
No, there is not.
No way. No.
Bo Nix was horrendous.
Was a tough watch. Tough watch to the point.
That team stinks too.
You know, it was interesting. The ex-Jets quarterback, Sam Darnold, played well. Geno Smith played well late, or at least played well, came back in the game. I was thinking Zach Wilson might get a shot after watching Bo Nix for a
John,
quarter.
did you see Adam Archuleta? Did you hear Adam Archuleta's call on the one pick?
I did not.
Oh, so like literally, they're watching, and Sparrow Deeds is calling the play, right? Bo's ready to throw it. He hasn't even like gone back yet, and Adam's like, "Oh no!" It ended up being a pick. He knew it.
By the way, everybody knows I'm a Kyle Shanahan truther. That's my bold prediction after week 1. I'm not saying he's going to be all pro or anything, but Sam Darnold's going to be fine as a starting quarterback.
Oh, Sam Darnold's with Kevin O'Connell, he was with Kyle Shanahan last year. So,
yeah, he's going to be fine. He can play.
Yeah, you're probably right on that, Johnny Mac.
He completed his first 12 passes against the Giants defense, which, by the way,
the Giants defense is not bad. Yeah, it's not bad. The Giants defense is not bad.
No, they do have some players. That's actually the one bright spot of that team is they do have some players on that defense. Jeff, we got to run here. We appreciate you joining the show on Birds 365. Great breakdown of week 1. We'll talk to you next week. All right, Jeff?
That sounds great. Happy, I guess we can say a happy start of football season.
Yep, no doubt. Jeff Kerr, thanks for being here, man. There's Jeff Kerr joining us on Birds 365. Great stuff from Jeff Kerr.
We always go late. I apologize. We always go late with Jeff.
That's all right. It's all good. A couple things I want to get to. We have Chris Franklin coming up in about 7 minutes. So we'll wait to take our time out. There's a couple chats, John, I got to get to. I want to thank all of our new members today. John Love becomes a member. Derek Pointer becomes a member. Bobby Peoples becomes a member. Dirty Air becomes a member. Philly Birds and Beers. And Michael
everybody wants that jersey.
Everybody wants that jersey, Johnny Max. Everybody's joining in for the jersey. We'll be giving that away tomorrow. I think I'm going to do the after hours on Birds 365. I'll do it from 10 to 10:15. So make sure you guys are here tomorrow morning so that we can do the giveaway for the Saquon Barkley jersey. You must be entered. You must be a member by today. So if you join tomorrow morning, you're not going to be entered. You must be entered into the channel today or a member today to be entered into the giveaway for the week 1 jersey. We will be giving away one every single week if Saquon goes over 125 yards, which, if yesterday was any indicator or Friday was any indication, we might be giving away a lot of these things. A couple super chats, Johnny Mac, I want to get to. James Carver drops in $10. James, thank you, brother. We appreciate your support of the channel. He says JC didn't have typical impact, but think he did play impactful if you assessed Jalen Carter as a DT, taking up blockers and gaps and allowing linebackers, especially Zach, to shoot gaps without having to stack. JC effectively played JD's game. Interesting take there from James Carver. John, did you see the same from Jalen Carter in that game?
Well, he was okay. JD had a really poor tackling game. A bunch of guys did. CJ did. Milton did. Bunch of guys did. N'Kobe did. Carter was okay from that standpoint. He didn't play like Jalen Carter. But like I said, I'm giving the front 7 a mulligan. Came up late, made the big play, sort of like a Super Bowl. That wasn't a dirty play. Him and Josh Sweat teaming up on Jordan Love. But he didn't play like Jalen Carter. I'm not going to lie. He didn't play. I mean, this is the best defensive player on the team. He didn't play. Hopefully it had to do with the turf and the field and the slipping and sliding. They were on skates for most of the night, it seemed, the front 7. And hopefully things go back to normal. But it wasn't one of his better games.
Couple members. Yeah, no, I'm with you. It wasn't. I was expecting him to be a big impact player, and he wasn't. But James Carver, your point is well taken. I will continue to watch him as he develops this season. Couple member chats I want to get to. Abe, my man Abe. I talked to Abe, Johnny Mac, on the post game show. Brought him up, so it was good to talk to Abe. Put a face to a name with Abe, my man Abe. So he says, I love the fact that Blankenship pointed at Watson after Mitchell deflected the deep ball, then had to hold them back for talking shit. Dog mentality. Yeah, well, just to the point, John, Reed Blankenship played phenomenal.
Oh, unbelievable game.
Yeah. Credit to you, because many people were questioning him, and you said, don't worry about Reed Blankenship.
No, in this one game, but I mean, he played very consistently last year. For whatever reason, it's pedigree, and people don't expect it from him. And then he plays well again, and you'll probably look after Atlanta, and he'll play well again. And yeah, I mean, tremendous interception. And he was arguably the best player on defense from a consistency standpoint. As we mentioned, he got the highest grade. Probably be top ranked safety in the NFL this week. I wouldn't be surprised. We'll see how things go, but it's going to be tough to beat his number. I will say that. I haven't seen every game, but I saw a good look around the league. Yeah, it's just a really good player. And the Eagles were never concerned about Reed. No matter how many times I said it, nobody believed it. Not even a concern about Justin Simmons, Eddie Jackson. They were very happy with Reed Blankenship.
And a great play he made on that interception. So good stuff from Reed Blankenship. Hey, appreciate the chat, man. Prince Swayze, a member for 2 months now, checks in with his member chat and says, what? Jalen Carter was being held and double teamed. This is why I hate PFF. Mitchell didn't allow a TD. John, people don't like the PFF stuff, man.
Oh, they don't like the bad number.
They erupt at the PFF stuff.
Prince, complain about a good number, and then I'll take you more seriously. Like literally, everybody complains about the bad numbers, and only for the bad numbers of the players that are supposed to be good. Every player has bad games from Tom Brady on down. So it happens. And when Jalen Carter is the 5th graded defensive tackle in the NFL as a rookie. You got no problem with that. He didn't play well. He didn't play up to his standard. Unless you want to complain about last season when he got good grades, when he was playing well. I've yet to hear the first fan complain about a good PFF grade.
I will say, you bring up the point that because I'm not as much of a PFF guy. I do take it for what it's worth, and I listen to you when you bring it up. They do seem to be, if a guy plays really good and you think he plays really good, he's there on PFF. Yep. So I'm not a PFF truther. I like when John brings it up because I think it's good context. But they do seem like, who was the top 5 graded guys?
On defense, Reed was number 1. Brandon was number 2 in, 32 snaps. Zach was number 3. Slay was number 4. Milton Williams, the big drop off from 4 to 5. But basically, the 4 players that played well were Reed, Brandon, Zach, and Slay. And then he had a big drop off to Milton Williams. Offensively, the offensive line graded out very well. Lane was number 1. Trying to pull it up real quick.
Yeah, but anyway, my point is that the guys that played well.
Yeah. Devontae was number 2. AJ was number 3. Jordan Mailata was number 4. Landon Dickerson was number 5.
Right. They clearly played well in the game. So it's interesting from that perspective, but people don't like it when you bring it up. 2 more super chats, John, to get to before we get to our break. Appreciate everybody, by the way, in the chat for being here. We got a great crowd on this morning. 1-0, everybody. The Philadelphia Eagles come away with the win. So make sure you guys hit that like button if you're enjoying the show. Brian Pumper, this is a pretty funny super chat. He says, Ed Reed Blankenship, a.k.a. the Milk Missile, was everywhere. We need Coop stealing Maddox's snaps now. The Milk Missile, Brian Pumper. You might have to trademark that, my man. That's a good nickname for the Milk Missile.
Slay called a milk check.
Is that okay? So it was out there. I didn't see that. So Milk Missile.
Slay called him milk check, but that milk check isn't spoiled.
I guess milk just means you're a white dude, right? When you're out there. Yeah.
So usually you worry about the milk check is what Slay was talking about.
Right.
With Cooper, I know because there's a bunch of people with Cooper. Like, I don't think a bunch of people understand how good of an athlete Cooper DeJean is. Like, the assumption is that, let's be honest, that white guys in the secondary are not good athletes. That ain't the case with Cooper DeJean. Go on YouTube and look up his basketball highlights if you want to see what kind of athlete he is.
Yeah, so we'll see if he gets out there a little bit more. I didn't think Avonte Maddox was great, Johnny Mac.
He wasn't.
I don't know if he lost his edge a little bit or the injuries have taken a toll, but he was not the same player. One more super chat, and then we're going to get to our break and get up Chris Franklin as soon as possible. Prince Swayze says, Zach caused that Blankenship INT.
Zach did a great job on that play.
PFF overall, John, good and bad. No, but Prince, you are right. And John talked about that on the postgame show with Zach Bond sticking him in coverage, which led to the Blankenship.
It made the angle of the throw far more difficult with Jordan Love, but it was a great interception. Both players deserve a ton of credit for that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So thanks to El Yepa becomes a member. And then one more, James, I'm going to get to your next super chat. It's a good one. So I'll get that after Chris Franklin, brother. Sorry for the delay on it. I appreciate it. It's $20, so we appreciate that, but I don't want to cut you short. I have Chris Franklin waiting in the green room, so I'm going to get to Chris Franklin, and we'll get to your super chat before the end of the show. So good stuff from Chris Franklin. Before I get to our commercial break, I got to tell you guys about our friends at BetUS. They have a new promotion running right now, everybody, for specifically for our YouTube people. It's the code YouTube 150. And what that 150 means is you get a 150% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. So you can get tons of money just from depositing free play money on BetUS to go and bet the games, to go and bet Saquon Barkley prop bets, the whole 9 yards. So go to betus.com.pa. They have that, and then I'm going to put the banner up on the bottom. You guys can see that code down at the bottom. So it's betus.com.pa, and use the code YouTube150 for 150% sign-up bonus. BetUS has the fastest payouts in the industry. It's very fast and very easy to deposit and withdraw your money. They have 24/7 personalized service, 365 days of the year, and you get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. So BetUS is the best place to do all your sports betting this football season. Go there and use YouTube 150 to get 150% sign-up bonus. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Hit that like button. Birds 365 will be back in 3 minutes with Chris Franklin on the other side.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Score and save in Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Monday edition, an Overreaction Monday edition of Birds 365. The Philadelphia Eagles are 1-0. They get the win in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Joined now by Chris Franklin of NJ.com. Chris, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this Overreaction Monday?
Doing all right. It actually felt good to watch all the other games yesterday. It really felt like football was truly back. It's great.
That's the one thing I like about being a standalone game. I usually don't like them, Chris, because we have to stay late and all that kind of stuff when we're at games. But at least you get to watch the entire football Sunday if you're on a Thursday or in this case a Friday. And it was good to see the rest of the league. But before we get to that, and I was impressed by the Cowboys, which people will hate. But before we get to that, let's get to your overreaction. What'd you like most about the Eagles' win over Green Bay? What'd you like the least about getting out of there with a win?
The thing I liked the most was the fact that they have, at least if you want to call Overreaction Monday, I think the one thing is that they may have a really good off the ball linebacker duo potentially. And if at least off that one game there, I thought Zach Bond did very well. It surprised me the effectiveness that he had. The one thing I thought they did horribly, and I see that, is the turnovers. And it's the same thing we saw last year that led up. They were able to get away with it on Friday night, but these turnovers and some of the decisions that were made, especially Jalen, especially near in those interceptions. They look really bad. When he was really good. He was on. It was really moving. But those interceptions were, they're bad decisions.
Yeah, they were bad ones. That's what I said. The thing about Jalen that I think he sets himself apart. Usually when guys are playing like that, you have those turnover worthy throws, and he had 2 more that could have been picked, Chris, that were dropped. Usually guys kind of fall apart. He's relentless, man. He's making plays on the last drive to close out the game, even after making those poor plays. You got to play 60 minutes. Vic called the Green Bay offense an all-day sucker, whatever he called them. That's what Jalen is. Like, you can shut him down for 55 minutes, and he still might make a play that beats you. That's impressive.
That's the thing you want for your quarterback. It's almost like you had to have that mentality as a closer. All right, you made one mistake, you got to get to the next guy, next pass, next out, what have you. So I look at that, and that's one of the things I think that's really good about that comprises him as a quarterback, is that ability to stay composed in all those things. Because we saw yesterday, there's some guys, as soon as they make one,
they fall apart.
So it's one thing that's bad. So I think that was a good thing. Part of him, it was a good part of his makeup.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, Chris, the thing what you didn't like from the game, from the Week 1 win for the Eagles.
Oh yeah, turnovers. I say like turnovers are bad. Also, you know what? And I think this as well too. I say the field conditions were just. I felt like I was like.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was say I felt like I was in Arizona all over again. Like, what the heck was this thing? He's like, I didn't know NFL on ice was a new thing where everybody's slipping and sliding around, but that field was just.
Chris, are you giving a mulligan to the pass rush because of the field, because they were non-existent out there?
No, because of Zach Bond and Josh Sweat were able to, at least, and sometimes Jalen Carter, they were able to get to the quarterback and able to get home, while there's certain other people, such as say Bryce Huff or whatever, and people won't say, well, he threw the opposite direction and he got it out quickly. Yeah, but it seems like those other guys were able to get there and influence him and make that throws. Yeah, I'm a little concerned about it, because if not, we saw what the counter was. Vic started blitzing a little bit more, and if you start blitzing a little bit more, somebody gets these really good quarterbacks, they're going to start picking that apart. They're going to know what's going to come, and then you're burned. So I'm not giving a mulligan to the pass rushers right now. Only thing I'll say is still early in terms of the fact that, especially for a guy like Huff, when you look at Javon Curse when he first started, he didn't get his sack, I think, until week 2. Hassan Reich didn't get his first sack until week 2, and then we know what Hassan Reich did after that. So still very early, but it's still a concern too.
It's early. I'm a little bit concerned, but I did give him a mulligan because of the field. And the NFL should be ashamed of itself, Chris, for putting them on that field, but they don't care. On the other hand, it's like, does Zach Bond have a savvier footwear decision-making process than everybody else? Because he was able to do some things, and Reed Blankenship played very well. But, I thought the Green Bay pass rush was typically a very good pass rush. And other than Rashawn Gary, they couldn't get anything going. One of the matchups I was most concerned about was Kenny Clark against Mekhi Becton. And Mekhi Becton shut him down. That's a really good player. So if they struggle against Atlanta like they did, then I'll start being concerned. But for right now, I'm giving them a little bit of a mulligan because of that field. Am I being too kind?
They'll sing songs about your compassion, John. They'll say, you know what, you're so nice.
That's a first. That's a first.
Like, it's one of those things where it was, music cliches, and I apologize, but the whole thing was bad for both teams.
Yeah.
And
but
they were still able to get into
the Green Bay pass rush was crappy too. So
I look at more as the offensive line. The only guy I think that really had struggled that game was Dickerson a little bit, but even then he held up. It's better than what we saw to the other guys. So I look at the way, like, I thought they both did a decent job in terms of that as well. So Becton to me was just physical, and that's why I wanted to see out of him. Like, we know he's physical. He was able to handle stunts a little bit too. You can say, well, I think it was just more of him being technically sound and him using his strength, and that's what helped him out in that spot.
Yeah. Well, the offensive line was good. And Mackay, we'll see if that can continue. I still have my whole thought process with Mackay. I saw my buddy Ross Tucker. I love Ross, but boy, he's an ex-offensive lineman, obviously. And he's like, Mackay Becton was born to play right guard. I'm like, he's 6'8" with the longest arms in the world. He was born to play left tackle, which is where the NFL drafted him. Can he play right guard? First test was pretty good, but I don't think he was born to play right guard.
If he was, every quarterback's going like, "Oh no, I gotta think another position," because you gotta try to look over that and look around that mountain of a guy at the right guard spot. Yeah, good luck on that. But yeah, he did well. I mean, you look
He
at the
did
fact that he
really
was,
well.
yeah, hey, you gotta look at Stoutland for that. The fact that you could take, he saw something in this guy. The fact that he was like, all right, yeah, okay, he's greenlit it, said, okay, yeah, I can work with this guy, and got him in playing inside in the phone booth area. Yeah, now yeah, he did well. And you gotta give credit to Stoutland, Roseman for bringing him in, and everybody else.
Yeah,
no
and
doubt.
we're not going to hear Tyler Steen too much moving forward, I don't think.
No, I don't
Barring
think
injury.
he will at all.
No.
Chris, I want to ask you about Saquon Barkley, man. 3 touchdowns, 132 yards from scrimmage for him, or all-purpose yards, whatever you want to call it. What'd you make of his debut in Philly?
It's almost like he's really important that a certain team should let him go, because when they don't have him in part of his offense, their offense doesn't even move, Giants. But yeah, when you look at the way that they're
Giants will not survive this.
No, they won't.
Well, Brian, I'm talking about Brian Daboll, Joe. They will not survive this.
Especially after that Hard Knocks. But I look at the way that that his usage was really like, he ran effectively. And the one thing you love, especially when they run that zone running scheme, is one cut and go. Not a lot of dancing. You patient enough to let the holes open up, and you go. And you saw what he's able to do. And when nothing's there, he used that jump cut to find his way and make space somewhere else and accelerate. And you look at the dynamic he has, not only in the run game. You look at that catch he made for a touchdown. With able to the wherewithal is not only like get enough space for him so he wouldn't be out of bounds in order to and have to come back in, but in order to be able to make that catch, it was really good. And you saw you got your money's worth out of him, to the point now you see all the stuff that come off of it, where teams that one thing where he went in motion and everybody had to bump out because, oh no, he's coming in, he's coming. And then you're able to get a completion off of that to so you could do so much, and that attention that he draws just opens up so much for that offense. So I think you saw the beginning of what could be a really, really good season for Saquon. And the only caveat you're going to keep hearing is as long as he's healthy. And if they use his touches the way they did, like they insert Gainwell a good amount of time and occasionally use Shipley, it'll be all right.
Yeah, we saw a little 21 with Will Shipley for a little bit of series in the red zone. That was interesting. An interesting tweak from Kellen Moore. The positive to me is, Chris, I don't think they even played well, and they put up 34 points. I mean, it was one of Jalen's worst games ever from a grading standpoint from PFF. And they scored 34 points. You talk about that wheel route. If you watch that wheel route, watch the back seven. They did these 2 in-breaking routes with Devontae and AJ. The whole team went with Devontae and AJ. And all of a sudden, you got Saquon leaking out with poor Isaiah McDuffie all alone. And, I mean, they could do it the opposite way next time. You could maybe somebody runs with Saquon, and all of a sudden, AJ and Devontae are open. Like, if you're an opposing defensive coordinator, what the hell do you do? Where do you start?
I think they were looking at Phil from last year, like, they're not going to throw to the running backs. And it's like, oh, wait, it's a little different now. Okay. And they got further that one. It's like, schematically, there's so little, the little intricacies of what's going on. Like, they could tail off a route they may have ran like last year, a little bit, like a couple of yards. Right? It opens up something behind it. There's so many variations in it, and I know we talked about this ad nauseum, but the motions and stuff that set things up for these guys to use it. Simple fact of just putting AJ Brown, Devontae Smith in the slot to allow them to get free releases and do what they do, and we saw the benefits of that. And yeah, the numbers, they definitely didn't play well at all. And I think that's something they can look at the film as an offense and go, you know what? If we did this and did 34, just imagine when we have a clean game. If they have a clean game, good luck trying to stop this team. It may be shootouts. Who knows? We gotta wait to see the defense, but who knows? They can play a clean game, and this defense is about to be 12th, 11th and ranked in the league. Who's gonna stop them?
You're right, Chris.
Yeah, I don't think Devontae Smith's getting enough love either after this game. That dude's carrying people for a first down in the game, in the drive they close out the game. Boy, he's the smallest guy on the field. I was talking about Britton the other week, and he said he's smaller than Britton, weight wise, and he's carrying people. He's so physical for his size. He's AJ's AJ, and AJ's the best player the Eagles have, in my opinion. Just pure football player. Devontae might be number 2. I think he's in the conversation with Lane Johnson as number 2. That's how good I think Devontae Smith is.
Ooh, you can't fault him at all. He's really they have he's 1B if that. They have 2 number 1 wide receivers. Good luck trying. It's not, teams don't have that luxury for that. But the fact that you're able to, you can have all the talent in the world, but there comes a time where you have to make a big play at a certain time of crunch time. And the way they relied on him in that fourth quarter to keep that drive going, to keep the 4-minute offense going, and he came in time and time again. And not only just in those catches were tough. Draped over in coverage, and you try to fit to fit in the windows, and he's able to do that. And I look at what he can do. I wouldn't be surprised if statistically, if teams really start to overcorrect and really try to double AJ again. I wouldn't be surprised if he led the team in receptions this year. I really wouldn't. I think AJ could be your big play guy, and then Devontae Smith is you work him underneath, what have you, or he's a second option when you can't go to AJ. He can lead the team in receptions. He's that good, and I think that could be a possibility, especially him in the slot. But yeah, I look at the continued development in him, because one thing he's talked about in the past is how he's learned to position his body a little bit better. He learned that from AJ, to position his body better for him to be able to make those catches. He's doing that now, and you see the effect of each other helping each other out. So it's a good. He's set up to have a really good year here.
Chris, I want to get your take on Quinyon Mitchell, the rookie first rounder. I thought he answered the call. They went to him a lot. I thought he held his own pretty well. What did you make of Quinyon Mitchell's debut in Philly?
I look at 2 things. I'll compare it to Terry and Arnold last night. One in the parts I was watching in that, and it looked like whenever you saw confidence, a lot more confidence in Mitchell as opposed to when I looked at Arnold. When he got to Mitchell, he made the play. He felt he would go up there. He started talking to receivers' faces. He'd go in there, and he looked the part. He looked comfortable. Where he looked at Arnold in his first game, it seemed like he was a little more timid, and then teams just started picking on him left or right. They were going in there. Packers were looking like, okay, Packers trying to do the same thing. Like, okay,
oh yeah,
you got the rookie Slay. We're gonna try to pick him apart. And he said, we're not going to do that on my side. We look at Arnold. They picked on him and they had success, and the Rams had success a little bit. So I look at that and I'm like, you know what? The Eagles really they got something here, and you get him rolling. They may have to do something at the nickel spot, because Devontae Maddox had a bad game. And maybe he's more of a safety now as well too. We don't know that in terms of that. And they had to pick on somebody. Maybe eventually, if Isaiah Rodgers' hand's good, maybe you roll him to the outside, Mitchell into the nickel, and you go roll with that to make it better. But overall, he had a really, really steady performance for his first game.
Well, the Eagles, you bring up a good point with Rodgers, and Devin White for that matter, because Avonte did not play well, as you mentioned. I think N'Kobe made a couple splashes, but I think consistently he did not play well. Are they back in the conversation? And are we going to see cross training with Rodgers at some point? Because I don't want to move Quinyon Mitchell. I want to keep him outside. And that means if you're getting on the field, you got to play in the slot.
Right. I mean, if you want to say you cross train him as well too, but Also, the way that teams put people in the slot now, where they put like we saw the Eagles put their big player, I don't think it's even that bad of a moniker. So they said, "Oh, you're a slot corner." No, you're going against the top guys now in the middle. It's not like we're going to keep these guys on the outside and yeah, you get whoever the third wide receiver is. They just stay there. You go match up. It's a big deal in terms of that. And I mean, you can do that. You can match it up. But I think in terms, you just want to get your best, say, nickel, your best 5 defenders out there. And I mean, he's one of your best 5 defenders. The thing that shocked me the most was we saw Keely and Isaiah in this matchup all through camp. And when they started struggling, I thought Vic may have gone switch to that, going, okay, maybe put Keely in there on the outside, move him to the slot, but never happened too. So maybe they are cross training him. He's not thrilled about it, but you just gotta get your best 5 defensive backs out there.
And Devin, is he back in the
Devin?
conversation?
I don't think so. I don't think so. The way that they played, the way those two played, along with those rumors about him potentially being dealt, yeah, I think he's more of a depth piece now. It's a nice depth piece to have in terms of in case you need a guy who needs to be on the green dot and start calling that defense because he's done it before. But the way you know, and I thought it was interesting. And I didn't think of much of it when they released that first depth chart before the game, thinking they had Nakobe and Devin on the same line.
The slash, yeah, the college slash, I like to call it.
It's like, yeah, no, this is just to mess with him. Like, they're not going to start him because Devin was starting throughout the preseason with him. And then all of a sudden, there he is. And Nakobe answered the call. Am I worried about Nakobe and coverage still? Yeah, I am. I am. But at least you hope to get to a point where if he does well on rundowns, like first down, typically rundowns, first and second, you can get away with him, leave Vaughn as like quasi nickel linebacker, what have you, and you can rush with him or what have you, and leave him on the field. And that way you can just bring your defensive backs so you survive that way. But yeah, I can't fault the way he played.
I think we have to recalibrate as a society the expectations for linebackers in coverage. I encourage everyone to look at Kansas City and Baltimore. Andy Reid was going after Roquan Smith, going after him consistently in the passing game. If he's not, I would say Fred Warner's the best linebacker, but Roquan's probably in the conversation between number 2. And Andy's like, oh, I want to match up with that guy. I want to put Rashee Rice in the slot on that guy. And it was a disaster for Baltimore. Why does everybody expect linebackers to be able to cover these athletes in space?
Well, that middle of the field now has become a damn if you do, damn if you won't. Because remember, you see a big shift to all these linebackers, hybrid linebacker / safety guys that people were drafting, and they try to even was it Jacoby Shepard, was it Stevens or whatever?
Jacoby Stevens, yeah.
Stevens, yeah. They were Eagles did that in the late round. So like, okay, we had a guy
Nick Gary too. Nick Gary was a college safety.
Snake
didn't work.
Oh, it didn't work. Well, yeah, everybody's going through that, and you see the ability of these tight ends down the middle. If you go light, teams are going to run the ball down your throat. If you go heavy, we saw what happens when you pass it. So I think it's also just a byproduct of the way offenses are doing now. There's an old school way throwing. Nah, we're not going to throw. We're going to run on first down. We're going to run on second down. Get it short enough where we can make it tough. It's tough now to play that position.
Yeah. Chris, what was your takeaways on Kellen Moore's scheme out there? Did you see any big differences? Anything stick out to you from what he brought to the offense, at least in week 1?
Well, I think the use of the motion, I thought that was really good the way he set up. I look at the way that the 2 back sets, I thought that was very important as well too, especially using that. And I think there's more to come off of that. I was so happy on that. I was so proud of that. I wouldn't be surprised if a wrinkle we see in the future, maybe you have this if you want to keep some of your offensive linemen in play, or maybe you use Calcaterra in this role, what have you. Back when he was with the Cowboys, they used the H-backs and the fullbacks, stuff like that. Maybe you use that as a wrinkle coming up. Maybe that's something that's in you keep in your back pocket, something like that. But I look at those, I look at that, and I also look at the personnel groupings that he used. And it was like it was a good mix. Like you saw Johnny Wilson was like he dressed. I thought they were going to maybe sit him down, what have you, when he dressed, but then he came out and had that big block and on one of those passes. So you look at the little nuances. And a lot of times these coordinators they'll have these guys up and they just sit on the bench and do it. He used pretty much every man that he had available on there and gave them a role in some ways, and he utilized their talents at some point or some what have you. So I look at those as things that he really did well, wrinkles wise in this game.
And how about Vic? What did you think of
Vic?
Vic's first outing?
I thought Vic and Cojones at first to keep Blitz and Jordan Love because I was like, okay, yeah, he's going to burn him. He's going to really burn him. And I thought he did all right with what he had. I'm still concerned a little bit about the runs that they gave up because it was a couple times where Jordan Davis was blocked one-on-one, which you want him drawing two guys. So it was blocked one-on-one. There were some big holes that were opening up there. I also think that was also some of the guys were over pursuing. I look at the secondary did better than I thought it was going to do as well too. I thought they were going to be a death by 1,000 paper cuts at times where they were going to try to pick apart those holes in the zones, and they were stout. And I was going to do this. I want to ask them this later this week, so I'm probably giving my hand away what I'm writing about. But I'm looking at the way we saw this early in training camp in the preseason games with this red zone defense, especially when they're in a deep red zone. And you look at the way they played early on, they kept them in that game early because that had all the makings of a blowout setting up there.
The first two drives, the scoring drives for the Packers, 5 plays for 6 yards and 8 plays for 8 yards when they had a chance to take control of the game and they had to settle for 2 field goals. That was the defense was great early and then slowly fell apart. With the larger field. That's why it's so difficult in red zone because it's condensed and you don't have to worry about some of the things and stretching the field. And I thought the Eagles did a really good job there was the other places. And I don't think Jordan Love was not his typical accurate self, Chris. They left a lot of meat on the bone out there. I think both teams did from that standpoint.
That's why week 1 is always the toughest one to try to predict, and you don't never know what to see. Too many unscouted looks. You got so many teams make these wrinkles and these changes, and some of these guys just haven't played a lot in true game fashion. And it'll open up to say, well, why don't you play more in preseason, what have you? Well, the difference is you can get hurt. So, yes, it said that's the side effect for not playing a lot, which I think they'll take that and having a guy available for a full 17-game regular season schedule. And having them fresh and available as opposed to just sitting them down.
I was just talking about that. I'm like, yeah, they get it because you hear all these people, he's got to play in the preseason. Like they know they're going to be sloppy. They're doing a cost benefit thing. They don't want anybody to get hurt. You want to have them for the regular season. And you probably don't have enough time anyway to prepare like you used to in the old days. So that's the whole cost benefit thing. It's like they know they're probably not going to be their sharpest. Nobody can wrap their head around that, Chris.
Week one. Well, I got a lot of head to work with, so that's from there. But when it comes to week 1, though, week 1's almost like a bowl game in college. You got so much time to lay off. All these teams, we vote everybody and their mom. Like, if you get this down, like you try to pick apart what they can do the whole entire thing, and then week 1's here, and then that's where the toughness comes. Then you have to prepare every week, save for the bye week. So it's really tough to know what's going to happen and scout for week 1.
Chris, the NFL is back, brother. Week 1's almost in the books. Just one more game. We appreciate you joining today. Looking forward to talking to you a bunch this season. Thanks for contributing today on Birds 365. Great takeaways from the game. We'll talk to you soon. All right, Chris?
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah.
At C Franklin News, make sure you follow Chris on the X platform. Read him at nj.com. Does a tremendous job there. And he's a great dude on top of it. So there you go. Chris Franklin.
Great guy. He's giving you the chest pound in the green room as he checks out. Chris, thank you, brother. We appreciate it. So good stuff there from Chris Franklin. Johnny Mac, we got about 7 minutes to go on the show left today. Recapping this Overreaction Monday. I got 2 chats I want to get to from the Supers. I want to remind everybody to join in and become a member today if you want to be entered into the Saquon Barkley jersey giveaway, or if you just want to support the channel. It goes a long way in supporting the content you see each and every day here on JAKIB Sports. So thank you to all of our new members today and all of our members who have been a member. So we appreciate each and every single one of you guys. You guys are the best, so I appreciate that. James Carver dropped us $20, John, before Chris Franklin joined, and I didn't want to cut him short, so let's do it now. He says, here's one complaint, J-Mac, on a good play. The pass from Jalen to Barkley touchdown was identical to his first interception pass, but the sail float worked out that time when it didn't at first. I hated that pass more than the first interception. I think James is saying he wasn't trying to be partial to Jalen Hurts on that first interception. What's your reaction to what he said there about that first touchdown?
We're talking about the wheel routes. I mean, that was everything's about execution. I mean, the problem with the throws, the interception throws, and the ones that could have been interceptions was again the how late they were in the problem. You have to know as a veteran quarterback, Jalen has played enough now to understand you can't get away with that stuff at the NFL level. And I imagine, to Chris's point just right there about being like a bowl game, part of it is that he doesn't play and he doesn't get reps, and you can talk about practice and joint practice and trying to make it as real as possible. Until you get out there and get used to it, there's a little bit of a ramp up here. So hopefully it's cleared up just by that. But I mean, every play is about execution. That's why I always say people don't judge play calls, they judge play results. You know, it's self-evident, but you know, because a play doesn't succeed doesn't mean it's a bad play call, because it might be a good play call, maybe an indifferent play call, maybe a bad play call, possibly, but it's not inherently bad because it didn't succeed. Execution is still far more important than anything else when you're out on the field. And Kellen Moore will be the first one to tell you that, because when everybody else talks about the motion and the formations, and I get it, and you got Chris Collinsworth telling you this and that and this about motion on Sunday Night Football. First thing Kellen Moore always defaults to is clean operation. You know, stay ahead of the sticks, execute, because it's more important. And all coaches know that.
Did you see the stat, John, that came out about the motion, though, with Jalen this week from Next Gen Stats? They put up a thing, and it says Jalen Hurts was significantly more effective as a passer when the play featured motion, completing 15 of 21 for 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. Without motion, Hurts finished 5 of 13 for 66 yards and 2 interceptions. How much stock do you put into a stat like that?
It means he did better with motion on September 6th in Sao Paulo. You know, he had one of his worst overall games ever from a grading standpoint, arguably his worst, at least if you want to believe the people that do it on a week-to-week basis. So there was a lot of bad with some of the good, and it was a little bit turned on head, because typically I didn't think Green Bay tested him as much as I thought they would when it came to the blitz, but his numbers against the blitz were very good as well. You know, but again, if you want to go back to 2022, which is Jalen's best season, obviously they didn't use motion. So how do you explain that?
Right.
Because the execution is better. That's how you explain it.
Right.
They didn't use motion, and he played at an MVP level. So what I'm saying is, it's not the most important part. And I'm getting that directly, by the way, from Jim Schwartz, who will roll his eyes at you and with disdain go, look, if you're disciplined, it's eyewash. That's all it is. It's eye candy. Now, you have to be disciplined as a defender. Of course. So there are times when you can, especially with younger defenders, get them off their P's and Q's, so to speak. They'll always call it eye discipline. But if you get to a bunch of guys who are competent and have experience, it's not going to affect them as much. So can it work? Of course it can work. Can it fail? Of course it can fail. So what is the difference between when it works and when it fails? And the teams that use it well and the teams that don't? Teams that do it well execute better.
Right. No, good point. I see what you're saying there. Let's go to Tyson Hagan. Tyson becomes a member. Tyson, thank you, brother. Good add of new members today. Appreciate all you guys. Will be giving away that Saquon Barkley jersey tomorrow. So look for that on Tuesday. I think that's what we're going to do every week, John, is we'll do it on Tuesday. And then if it's a Monday night game like it is next week, I'm going to do it on Wednesday just to give that extra day for anybody to become a member and then to also make sure they're present and able to consume it or see it if they do win. So that's what we'll do Tuesday every week for the season, and then Wednesday for any Monday night games. James Carver drops a super chat again and says, sadly, the only player I've ever cheerleaded for was Anias, and that ended my cheerleading days, especially here with J-Mac keeping receipts. Have a great day. James Carver, appreciate it, man. One of our best viewers and supporters. Thank you for your support of the program and the channel, as always, James. Good comment there, brother. Last one, Johnny Mac. We've got a minute left to go here on Birds 365. Rashid Mixon, a member for a month. Thanks to all of our members. He says, hey, John, first game, Saquon is looking like the Eagles CMC. I don't think John's going to like that one. Jalen Hurts against the Blitz, 6 of 7 for 91 yards and a touchdown. Linebackers are looking solid. Agree, question mark. So 3 points there, Johnny Mac, A, B, and C. Do you agree with A, B, and C?
Well, I thought game number 1 was very successful for Saquon Barkley and the Eagles. And I think, to me, it's more about impact than the numbers. He happened to be the guy scoring touchdowns, and that's great, but I don't even care as long as they're putting points on the board. And I bring up that wheel route as a perfect example of AJ and Devontae, and everybody can take a look at it. Half of the Packers back 7 is so focused on them, they're leaving Saquon to leak out himself against Isaiah McDuffie, which is a mismatch for the Eagles, and they took advantage of it. So that's what you're looking at. Down the road, it might be people paying more attention to Saquon, and it might be AJ getting open because of that, or Devontae getting open, or Dallas Goedert, or what have you. The impact to me is far more important. And that's far more important for Howie Roseman because that's what he said. And it's about his impact on the game. To that degree, a little bit similar to Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, I'm not going that far long term. We'll see how it shakes out. Hopefully it works in a similar fashion. But there's a long way to go before I'm going to be in that category. Linebackers, look, I've been Nakobe Dean for the past month. Didn't play well, except for the hit, which it stands out to everybody. And he was in a position to make a pick 6, which he didn't make, more towards a bad Jordan Love throw. But nonetheless, he didn't make it, though. Play to play, he wasn't that good. I wish he was because I want to be right, but he wasn't that good. Zach was great, and I didn't see that coming. I don't know anybody who saw that coming. I don't think it's going to be consistently that good with Zach Bond, but to see that upside was a really positive development.
Yeah, good stuff there from Johnny Mac. John, good show today, man. I thought we recapped the week 1 win pretty good. Also talked a little bit of NFL with the NFL games yesterday. NFC East, as you mentioned, looks like it's going to be the same this year. Cowboys and Eagles are going to be good. Commanders and Giants, not so good. So we'll be continuing to monitoring each of those.
That's 4 wins for the Eagles. Look at it that way. They should get. The Eagles always seem to find a They always seem to find a way to lose to one of those 2 teams. Boy, if they lose to one of those 2 teams this year, with Washington is rebuilding with a rookie quarterback, I mean, they're handing you wins. And the Giants are, I can't say they're the worst team in football because Carolina exists, but they're in the conversation. The Eagles should get 4 wins out of that group.
Yeah, no doubt. John, last question on the way out, brother. Appreciate everybody being here. Make sure you guys hit that like button. The Eagles are 1-0, so good stuff. John, big game tonight. I love the game tonight. Maybe my favorite game of the weekend is tonight. Jets, 49ers, Aaron Rodgers versus the good 49ers roster. What do you got tonight?
I'm torn because I think I'm riding the Jets this year. I don't want to go. I don't want to be boring and say Kansas City. I think the Jets. I think Aaron Rodgers has got one more in him, and they got a ton of talent, even without Hassan Reddick, who's going to forfeit a game check of $800,000 tonight. I don't know what the hell Hassan's thinking at this point. I get why he has a chip on his shoulder, but I mean, then just retire if you're okay. But if you want money, you better get back in. I don't get, and the Jets are still so gifted. And I think you'll see that this year with Aaron Rodgers throwing to Garrett Wilson. They got a great running back in Breece Hall. They got a tremendous defense, even without Hassan Reddick. I think they're a legit Super Bowl contender. I'm going to pick the upset. I'm going to go New York Football Jets, which will make Jody McDonald happy somewhere.
Yes, it will. Our old friend Jody Mack, it will make him very happy. We'll see about that game. I'm going to join you tonight on the Jets pick. I like Aaron Rodgers. I'm a fan of Aaron Rodgers. I think he bounces back strong after the injury last year on the 4th or 5th play of the season. So, and I think I'm with you. He's got another year left in him for another big year. So I'm going to take the Jets tonight. Appreciate everybody being here. A couple extra minutes we gave you on Birds 365. So appreciate all of you guys. We had a great crowd today. Appreciate all of our super chatters, all of our new members who joined in. Appreciate all of you guys. So thanks everybody for your support today and every day. As always, Birds 365 will be back tomorrow morning from 8 to 10 a.m. We will see you then. Johnny Mac, great show today, man. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Catch you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.